Welcome to Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide. Every journey holds a story. By sharing the wisdom of those who came before us, we keep their legacy alive for generations to come. Join me, Brennan Lane, as we explore the wild through the eyes of a Maine Guide. Welcome back to Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide with your host, Brennan Lane. And today I'm sitting with Blaine Miller of Allagash Guide, Inc. Thank you for coming up today, Blaine.
It was a good ride. Beautiful ride. Yeah.
Beautiful day out today there.
It is, compared to what we've had.
Yeah, it's not rainy and dreary anymore. Sun's out and beautiful.
No, it'll be back, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Blaine's history of guiding along the Allagash and in the Allagash region. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, Blaine?
Well, I grew up down in Gorham. I call it northern Massachusetts. And when I got through college, I got out of there in a hurry and moved a little bit north, maybe not as far as you, but looking back, I think I should have. But anyway, I went to USM, Southern Maine. It was Gorham State College, I think, back then in the dark ages. But anyway, and then I taught at Winslow that was 33 years. And I ran my business summers. And once I retired, then I could do other things as well. So
Yeah. How long have you been guiding?
I got my guide's license in 1972, and where I started teaching at Winslow, the guy that was the guidance director there, George Dwelly, owned St. Croix Voyages, and I knew nothing about St. Croix Voyages. I knew nothing about the Allagash except going up a couple of times to fish.
Yeah.
And he asked me to work for him, which I did, and he had traveling boys trips that were out for, I think, 8 or 9 weeks. And he did American Forestry Association trips that would be a week, and those were monstrous with, 30, 40 people at times, because he had an oversized permit for doing the Allagash back then. And so I started with him, and unfortunately, St. Croix Voyages and George went bankrupt. I think it was late in the 70s, and I learned a lot, but I also learned some things not to do versus some things you ought to do with a business. But anyway, that's kind of the beginnings of it all.
And so you mostly did the Allagash trips?
We did. We did the West Branch of the Penobscot, from Sabumac down Chizuncook. They used to do the St. Croix, which is where their name came from, but never when I was with them for those 5 or 6 years did we do the St. Croix, even though I do now.
Yeah.
But, and they pretty much concentrated on versions of the Allagash. The traveling boys trip, later on it was a traveling girls trip, and my wife and I did that one together. And some of those were kind of interesting.
Back in the day when your business was full bloom there, how many trips do you think you did a year?
Well, I was teaching school, and I actually did probably 7 or 8 trips in the summer back then. It was bang, 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 bang. I mean, I can't imagine it today. I need at least a week to recover today.
What better way, though, to spend your summer than on the river?
Yeah, the trouble is the summer went like a bullet when it was like that, though.
Yeah.
Went very fast. So, and then back to school, which I didn't mind doing. Didn't mind teaching. However, compared to guiding trips, there was no comparison.
No.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of maybe your experiences along your canoeing adventures.
Oh, I've had several interesting ones that come to mind. I remember back in the 80s, I was at Churchill Dam with a group, and we were about to run Chase Rapids. And I think it was Katahdin Outfitters brought in a bunch of Hell's Angels. And these guys were the real deal. I mean, they had the stuff on. And somehow they got to Millinocket and found out that canoeing whitewater would be a real thrill that they should experience. So they trucked him in, and dumped them off. And of course, they were rental canoes. And I went downriver and got out of there. But I did find out later that they never completed any trip. They didn't make it halfway down Chases. They dumped everything, and I think they wrecked a couple of canoes. But how would an outfitter say no to them about renting canoes? So anyway, that was an interesting thing. I had back also in the 80s. We were camped at Jalbare's campsite down on Long Lake, and it was in the evening, prior to being dark, and we were down on the beach having a cup of coffee and socializing. And off to the west, at first I thought it was Venus. It was getting bigger and brighter, and over a period of about 45 minutes, whatever this thing was, got bigger and brighter, and it was way more than a full moon. It was almost like a second sun. And just like that, it disappeared. And come to find out, other people saw it and reported it, but there was no explanation for what it was. They tried to say that it was a low-flying meteor that was parallel and coming in over. This was over a period of about 45 minutes.
It ain't like you just see it once and it was gone.
Yeah,
You actually had time to look at it.
It was strange. That was. Oh gosh, let me see what else. I had some things written down that were really, really strange ones like that. Oh, the big flood that we had in the Allagash, which was, I think, 2008 or 2009. I had a group, and we were going to start at Churchill and go down the whole river. And I had a doctor and his family that messed up the date by one day. And we're waiting for them to show up. Usually I put people up at my place. That way we leave on time, and there's none of the straggling coming in. Well, this family didn't arrive, and I got on the phone, and I finally did get a hold of them. They were a day behind us, and it had been raining all week, and it was predicted to continue to rain. Well, I had my son-in-law, Sir and Seren, arrange to bring them up to Churchill Dam. We went up to the Jaws and stayed overnight. It rained, I can't remember whether it was 7 or 8 inches of rain that night. They got up there, he got them there around 10 or 11 in the morning, and I had already gone down and looked at the rapids, and I mean, it was just unbelievable what it was. I found out later that it was 17,000 CFS. And I told the ranger, I says, don't let anybody think about going down this river.
So that's springtime conditions after ice out.
Oh, it was unreal. So we took and trucked down to Old Bisonet, and, the water was right up to where you would put your stuff in. And we got in, and we just boomed right down into Wamsascus. Got down into Wamsascus, you could paddle out over the meadows. I took my paddle, and I used this 6-foot paddle, and I could not reach bottom, paddling over the alders down there in the meadows. And I says, ooh, this is unbelievable. We got down to the bridge on the Reality Road, paddled right over the bridge. And I says, ooh, what am I going to do? I know I can't go down the river. Well, we went down to Jalbare's, and I figured that was high enough, we were safe, and we camped there. And the water came up more in the night and almost was up to our tents, as high as you could be in Jalbare's. The ranger, and I don't remember her name, that was there at the time, motored down, and she called and checked the CFS, and it was just unbelievable. Well, they closed the Allagash for 3 days. There were people stranded in campsites, picnic tables floating. I talked to Matt DeRoche and Roche, and he said I think there were 80 people camped at Mishu Farm because they couldn't go anywhere.
Holy cow.
The road was washed out on the Bogan. The bridge was washed out. Nobody could go anywhere. 3 days, they closed it down. I know that one of the road access coming to the Reality Road, a bridge was washed out. I don't remember which side it was, but anyway, I called Norman L'Italian on my satellite phone and had him bring my vehicles back up on the way they could get there. We loaded up and went over to the West Branch. They had like an inch of rain. They didn't even have anything like we did.
What year was that?
It was either 2008 or 2009. It was unreal. Unbelievable.
Hey guys, shout out to Northwoods Outdoor Supply, proud sponsor of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide podcast. If you guys find yourself in Aroostook County and need any ammunition, firearms, fishing supplies, or any outdoor supplies in general, swing in and see what they have. They have a large variety of firearms, ammunition, ice fishing supplies, regular fishing supplies, and just outdoor supplies in general. Stop in and talk to Brandon. If you don't have it, I'm sure he can get it for you. They're located right in the Martin's Plaza next to Martin's and Tractor Supply. So make sure you stop in and show your support and say hi.
Yeah.
So over your course of doing it, you must have seen a lot of things change with like technology-wise and everything else as well.
Yes, I sure have, which has affected several things. Now you get a lot of people that want to do just a 2 or 3 day trip. And a lot of them don't realize how far up there it is to even begin a trip. You know, they're thinking about going for 2 days. Well, forget it. You're going to be half a day up, half a day back. What do you want to do? Is just sit here for a day. That's it. They can't get away from the cell phone and the internet and Wi-Fi. And they don't want to, a certain segment of the population. Then on the other side of it, you want people that totally want nothing. They don't even want to see other people. But the big change is that it's shortened up the length of the trips that people want to go. Instead of the traditional week trip, it's not that way anymore.
The average is like that 3-night, 4-day now from what
Yep.
I'm seeing.
Yep.
I'm Zaskus down.
Yeah, you know.
And it's kind of strange because like for me, when I go out there, I like to be out there because there's no service, no communication, no nothing. I mean, you're out there and you're just witnessing nature and everything else, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
And the first thing you do now, especially now we got the cell phone tower there, you come down around Twin Brooks, you start getting service, and next you're like, why, we look around, no one's
I
paddling.
don't tell them at all. I say, you won't have any cell phone, maybe down at Fort Kent.
Yeah, yeah.
So they don't whip them out.
No.
So, yeah. Yeah, things have changed that way quite a bit.
Like, as far as gear, your gear must have changed. Has your gear changed quite a bit over the course, or have you stuck with the old stuff?
Well, I use a Baker oven every day. I've got several of those different sizes, and there aren't many people that use them anymore. It's just they don't know how to use them. And nobody really sells them. You have to have them made. But I use Eureka Outfitter Timberline tents, and they're real tough. And I have 4-man, which are comfortable for 2 people, and I have 6-man, which are really comfortable for 2 people or 3 people because they can stand up. And they're a little bigger and a little heavier, but they're well worth it. And of course, when the era of the Tupperware Navy became available in the plastic boats, that changed things immensely. And I had presence of mind when this happened, and Old Town came out with the 20-foot XLs to buy some, as much as I could afford to get. And at one time, I think I had 13 of them. I don't anymore. There were some beaters that I had to get rid of, but I still have some good ones. And I get calls from people all the time. We heard that maybe you're going to retire. What about the 20-foot XLs?
Well, let me know when it comes that day, because I'd be interested
You
in
and
one.
another 100 people. Yeah, so, when the era of the plastics came in, it reduced your maintenance time in between trips by quite a bit. I remember with St. Croix, we all had 20-foot canvas Old Town canoes, the guides model. And, you had to pole your way down the river, or you started bouncing off rocks like you do with the Tupperware Navy. You just, bounce your way down through, and the canoe is still usable. Well, with these, you get a little cut in there, and it starts to leak. Well, that night you got to pull in and you got to take and open that up. You got to dry it out. And we brought ambroid glue and old T-shirt material, and we patch it underneath, and then you flop it back down and glue it, and you put another patch over it. Of course, this takes quite a bit of time, and it requires sunlight like we have today, which, if you had this happen the last week, you'd have been in trouble.
The last couple weeks.
And that was the era before duct tape, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And it's funny because, like, you just mentioned that, and you look at the rocks going down to the Allagash, especially, like, on a low summer, it looks like a Christmas tree, all different colors.
I am so happy that people paint them. It marks them so you know where not to go.
Exactly. Some of them you can see have been painted pretty hard.
Yeah, oh yeah, painted all colors. That's another thing. I can't imagine having canoes that are red, yellow, blue. Canoes should be just green.
Green, yeah.
Just green. So, yeah.
Yeah, you see all different colors on the river, though, and the rocks going down through.
Yes, you do.
It's funny, some rocks you look down on, there'll be 4 or 5 different colors on the same rock.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure.
Now, tell us a little bit, like, about your trips, like your meals and, like, how you would conduct it a little bit.
Well,
there.
I can give away a little secret here. A lot of people, they're paying $500 to $1,500 for these Yeti coolers. Great coolers. What I do, I use a good size Coleman, maybe this long, and I buy a 4x8 sheet of Thermex insulation, and I cut it and fit it into the cooler, and I pre-freeze everything that I can, and I keep the stuff frozen in there for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that Yeti cooler might have done that, but my 4x8 sheet of Thermex was
a lot cheaper.
$10 or so. So yeah, that's one thing that I do. But I bake generally every night, and I use it as a warming oven in the morning when I'm cooking. I will cook like bacon or sausage or whatever it is, and I'll put it in the oven in front of the fire and keep it warm. And another thing I do that most people didn't do with Baker ovens, you get the wood chips coming in there, and I'm thinking, I got to stop this. So I just took some screen, bent it down over the front of it, and, some people thought that maybe this is going to restrict the heat coming in. No, worked great.
Really?
That's what I bring screen with me to put in front of it. And I'll put the stuff in there as I cook it. And I remember one time I had this guy, he comes over with his plate, and he's ready to get some of the things I put in there and didn't know that I had put them in there. He thought, I was just taking them off. Well, he wanted to get his plate full right then. No, we'll wait till it's all cooked and everybody can eat at once. So that worked kind of that way. But Baker oven, I've cooked anything you can cook at home at some point in time. I've cooked it in front of the fire. So yeah, they're great rig.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thing that a lot of people that I found they find intriguing is like how you can prep a 5-star meal out there in the woods. Like I remember one group that I took out there, the first thing out of their mouths were, "How are we gonna eat?" I'm like, "Well, we're gonna cook the food and over the fire. Like we ain't got no grill, we ain't got no stove or nothing." And then they were blown away that we cooked every meal over the fire.
Right.
Between that, and like you said, one of them little ovens there, cooking cookies, and stuff like that, and it absolutely blew their mind.
Yeah.
That you could do that.
Yeah. It's I cheat a little bit now, and I'll bring a propane stove and do some things. Like if you're making spaghetti, they're boiling up the spaghetti itself, but I'll still use the fire. I remember back with St. Croix, totally everything was done over the fire, like you're talking about. And we would bring these crosscut saws from the old days, and these kids would go out and they'd cut the big dead standing cedar and cut them into billets and then split them up, and we had great firewood wherever we went. And I still bring firewood with me today.
I do too, because the fire, the easy fire along the Allagash is disappearing. I mean,
Yes,
there's certain campsites I won't go to just because there's no wood.
I pull into a campsite, and we throw up the top in a rain, and split up a little cedar, and the fire's going in 10 minutes, and these other people pull into another cell that are there, and they're out scrounging around for wet, dead spruce and fir. They can't get it going. They're just making a lot of smoke.
It's amazing what a big dry bag will do full of dry hardwood for you to
Yeah.
bring to start fires with.
Yeah, I don't bring hardwood, but I bring the cedar, and I'll split it maybe halfway a billet and stuff it under the seats. And with those 20-foot canoes, I can bring a lot more than somebody in the 16-footer. So, I don't travel that light.
No.
There's no portages that bother me here. I used to do trips up in Canada. Now that was a different story. There could be some serious portages there.
Now, whereabouts did you go up there?
We did a bunch of the rivers that were north of Lake St. John, Oshawa-Mushawan, the Mistassini, the northeast branch of the Mississippi, and the Shallow River. And some of those had waterfalls and, big portages. And, that word portage, I find it offensive today. Too much work. Too much work.
Did you fish at all while you was up there in Canada?
Oh, when we were up on those trips, we used to do also over in Quebec, the Depart River. It runs east out of the Shefferville area, goes into the George River, which flows north. And it was just phenomenal trout fishing. I mean, every day we're on our fly rods, we're catching brook trout, anywhere from 3 to 7 pounds. Just
Really?
unbelievable.
Is it still like that today, or has it been?
Well, it's been 10 years since I've done it, but I'm sure it still is. Yeah, and we would side trip and explore up different tributaries, and you'd be the only people that probably fished that thing that year, or maybe for the last few years.
So it wasn't like the Allagash where you have campsites and stuff like that. Like this
No,
was true.
You had to make your own.
Yeah.
Dave Conley still does the
So I see he does a few, but I can't think of the name.
he does the Bonaventure
Yeah,
every year.
Bonaventure.
Yeah, I went with him one year on one of those, and we're real good friends, and we've done stuff together for years. So, yeah. But yeah, Canada's got a lot of good fishing.
You must have some stories about being up there that are out of the ordinary or stand out.
I didn't try to remember that stuff, but yeah. Oh well, we were doing the Oshawa-Mushawan, and I have a friend of mine that lives in New Brunswick, Jerry LeBlanc, and Jerry is a Canadian guide. And at first, we did a lot of trips together up there because I was, worried about guiding in Canada, not being a Canadian guide. So we worked together. But when you come down the Oshawa-Mushawan, there's a place with this huge waterfalls and cascades, and you got a portage around it, which we did. And Jerry was going to get down and get up on this bluff with and video the rest of us, the other 5 canoes coming down through. And I didn't know that it was really going to happen, and Jerry didn't know that it was going to happen, but the rest of the guys on the trip had rehearsed this. When they got to where Jerry was videoing, they dropped their traws and they mooned him. That was quite unique.
That's a lasting expression, huh?
Yeah, it was a memory, yeah.
Now,
And then there was another time when we do in the Shallow River, there's a waterfall of about 8 feet, and then there's another one down a quarter of a mile, 100 feet, before it comes into Mistassini Lake. And up there, you're on Cree land, and you have to hire Crees, to be there, to guide there, or be there. You have to hire them. So I hired this Cree guy, a great guy, and of course the Indians, when they get to a place where there's a waterfall or rapids, they portage and have forever. Well, he was a great paddler, but paddling in whitewater and that stuff, not so much. And he went down over the little waterfall, and my canoe was down there jammed against a rock in a big hole. And That was it for that. You couldn't get near it. It was unbelievable. And stuff went down over the falls. And one of the things that I do use are these York boxes. And I'm sure you're familiar with the plastic ones with the lids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of those, it went down over the falls, and it was still good. So,
Really?
yeah, it took a beating. Yeah. But anyway,
Hey, do you have any close encounters with wildlife or anything on any of these trips?
uh, Allagash Stream. I remember coming in Allagash Lake. There was always moose there in the stream, and you come around the corner, and they're in the middle of the stream, and you kind of back paddle and get out of their way. But some people can't back paddle very well, so they were almost running into them. But no, not really. Nothing significant. I remember some things that were pretty unique back, decades ago. Uh, I guess it was out of Plattsburgh, New York, where they used to run the sub-radar level runs with the jets.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at Allagash Lake and out there fishing in a B-52. It looked to me like he was less than 100 feet off the water, just coming right by.
Really?
And then there was another time we were going down Allagash Stream, leaving the lake to get down to Chamberlain. And I don't know what size jet it was, but this jet goes flying by. I said, whoa. I was poling my way down the stream. And of course, there was another one right behind him. They played bandit, trying to practice chasing each other in these sub-radar runs. And I just happened to look up from him going by the sound, and the other guy goes by, and I can see him in the cockpit. That's how low they were. So, yeah. Well, they did away with those because apparently people complained about it. It was ruining their wilderness experience.
Really?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
That's
Sounds of freedom.
something you don't see every day, though.
No. Yeah.
So, any tips or advice or anything that you could think of for doing the Allagash?
Yep.
Or
I
any
have
trips?
some. Number one, you want to be up on your technology because that's the way you're going to survive today. Something that I'm horrible at, don't even want to do, and don't want to know anymore. So, yeah.
Now, as far as technology, what do you mean?
Being able to put videos on there to make sure you're up with your website. I mentioned Dave Conley. Dave's a whiz at this stuff. And, you've got to do that stuff today because if you're buried with your website down there, you're just not going to get the business that those people that know. I mean, I've even heard of a couple of people hiring specific people to boost their site every week. I don't know how that's done, but
And that's the thing, like you look at it, there really isn't much done like in recognition of the Allagash or the St. John or many of the rivers at all in Maine. Like it's not really promoted that well, in my opinion. I mean, the state does it through the Park Service there, but other than that, it's not. There's no one really pushing to promote it.
no. And I think I don't know the exact statistics, but I got to believe the traffic on the waterway isn't as much as it was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it's strange though because like I guided a family from Colombia last year. I've guided a family from China. Like from all over the world. There's people that are coming from all over the world to the Allagash to do it, but yet it's not.
Yeah, I've had people from France and Germany and over the years, and they know about it, but people here don't. So
It's kind of strange how a lot of like I mean I grew up in Maine my whole life and I heard of the Allagash, but I never really put two and two to it till we moved up there.
You talk to people, just say a random number on the street, and ask them have they ever been up and done the Allagash, and I don't know if you asked 100 people, probably you're not going to find more than 10 that have.
Yeah.
So
And it's sad, really, because I mean, in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful places that there is. I mean, I tell everyone if you want to go and disconnect for a few days, go do the Allagash. Like that's the best place to be. You hit the major reset button, and when you come back, you feel like a different person.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with the St. John.
St. John, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, this would have been the year to do the St. John with the water levels that we had. I mean, you still can do it right now.
Yeah, I remember I got done, this was years and years ago, I got done doing my trips and had about 5 days before school was going to begin. And my son hadn't been on a trip that summer because he was playing ball and working. And I said, the water level's up in the St. John. Let's go do it. We did the whole thing from Baker Lake to the end in 3 days.
Really?
Yeah, the water level was beautiful. Saw no one.
No one.
No one.
And like in this year, like I don't know what it is, but like we only had a few trips there, but like the vehicles that you see in town where people taking off, like there was hardly anybody that did the same. I don't know if it was the weather being rainy and people didn't want to do it or what, but
Yeah,
it seems like it's gone down drastically over the last couple of years.
yeah. Some of the campsites aren't quite so good anymore
No.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I've had some interesting people over the years. I had a guy. He was in the 101st Airborne in the Band of Brothers, and his name's Guy Whidden. And you could look him up, and you'd be amazed at the stuff that's, he was in on. And he and his family went with me for, oh gosh, must have been 25, 30 years. And he passed away 2 years ago. He was 99. And I remember one time, my wife and I, Sylvia and I, were going to Florida in the wintertime, and we were going to stop by. He was from Frederick, Maryland, and he wanted us to stop by. Said, okay, well, here's the date we're coming down through. He says, oh, let me check my calendar. Well, he was supposed to be at an interview with CNN in Washington, D.C. that day. So he says, I got to call you back. He called him up and said that I won't do the interview unless I'm back by middle afternoon of that date. So they came with a limo, picked him up earlier, did the interview. He was back in time. He was a great guy. Fantastic. I won't tell some of the stories, but he did a book, and just amazing what those guys did.
You meet such a wide variety of people doing this.
Yeah.
And I notice it more with the canoers than I do like the hunters. Like
Right.
it's a
You're right.
larger variety of people.
Yeah. I don't have many hunters. I have a couple week deer hunters. I have a group of doctors from Burlington, Vermont that come every year, and we put them up right there, and Sylvia cooks big meals for them, and they just love it, and they go out in the tree stands, and they shoot a bunch of deer, and they're very happy.
Now is that down in central Maine? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right where we live. Yeah. We've got 350 acres there, and within the family, we've got, my nephew has, with another guy, 3,000 acres up to Black Hill area of North New Portland.
Mm-hmm.
We've got another 300 or 400 acres out in what's called the Notch in Skowhegan, and we hunt all of those.
Yeah. You have any good deer stories you want to share?
Nah, not really.
Oh. What about moose? I know you must have a few moose.
Oh, yeah. There's some moose stories. So let me think here. Oh, I had a couple of guys, a father and son. This is probably 10 years ago. I don't know. When did they make marijuana legal for people to grow in Maine?
Like legal to grow for recreational
you could
use?
grow 5 or 6 plants.
Oh, that's probably within the last, I'd say 5 years, 10 years, between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was the first year that I allowed this. And we rented a camp for these. They were from West Virginia, I believe. And we rented a camp up on the bank of the St. John. And the people that had the camp, they had
Some
5
cultivation.
or 6 buckets of marijuana out there. Well, the son was a policeman. And he's looking at those wondering, ooh. Yeah. So I says, no, it's legal in Maine now. And he was kind of a hothead. His father was very nice, and we did get a real nice bull before the week was over, so they were happy. But that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. You guys, was it year before last? You guys killed a nice one, I think, the September week, didn't you, in Zone 1?
Yeah, we've done pretty well. Yeah. My wife won 2 years ago, and just couldn't go out over the brush piles and get out to the back of the cuts. And we hunted 4 days and saw a bunch of cows. And they were paired up, and I'd call them in, but they weren't really close enough, and you got to go get them, and she couldn't do that. So
That's changed a lot over the years.
yes, it has.
Moose. Like now, you got to work for it more than just drive
The
down
days
the road.
of riding around and shooting them in the middle of the road, you're going to be very lucky to have that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, very lucky. But if you can go around the backside of those cuts and work your way around, they're out there. So
Out of sight, out of mind is what they think.
yeah, they've learned. Yeah, but the clear cuts today, they're herbicided as soon as they get up to good stuff for moose. They're herbicided, and they'll still come out into the cuts, but not like they used to.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, anything else that you want to touch down? You got a whole page of notes there. Did we cover it all already?
Page of notes. I'll have to take a quick look. Oh, gee. Oh, I thought of something. Back when the budworm the big spray programs were going on, it was a DC-3, I think, had to crash into Eagle Lake. They had electrical problems, and they had to belly their way in right off Farm Island. And I'd seen these guys before. There were guys that would come up with big war canoes, 24 feet long, with, they'd have their 9 horsepowers on them or whatever they had. And this thing belly landed. They went out and towed it back into shallow enough water so it didn't sink. And I was up there fishing for 3 or 4 days, and I had my brother's Grand Laker, and they were towing it at that time down to John's Bridge where they dismantled it. In fact, they took the body of the plane up to one of it made it into a mess hall up at one of the lumber camps. I don't know where it is today. And they dismantled the engines and all that stuff. But anyway, we were out there motoring around, and Brady Scott, who was the ranger there on Eagle, he had a Grand Laker just like mine. And we're out there going around the thing as they're towing it down to John's Bridge. And this plane starts circling around up ahead. And what the heck is that? Well, I figured they were just taking pictures. It was actually National Geographic. They were doing a shoot for Aroostook County and just happened to be flying over, and they figured it was a good shoot, and it made National Geographic. And
you made National Geographic?
Yeah, it shows 2 Grand Lakers, 2 green canoe-like things going around the plane. Brady was one, and I was the other. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I actually just see a picture of that, I think last week, pop up on Facebook.
Oh, really?
With the plane that crashed, because they were talking about the bugworm coming back, and they're going to spray again this year.
Yeah, they are going to be. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
I mean, another thing that relates to that, I remember one morning on the west branch of the Penobscot, we were camped at Ragmuff Brook, and that was when I was with St. Croix. And I'm cooking breakfast, and it's dead calm, dead quiet, and I can hear the hum of the budworms feeding. It was unbelievable.
Really?
You could hear the hum of it. Yeah.
That's one thing I still get taken back by, though. Like, just being out there, you get them calm, still mornings, and you can hear a canoe paddling a mile away.
I got hearing aids now, and it's a good thing I do. When I got the hearing aids 2 or 3 years ago, I said, gee, birds do make noise, don't they? Yeah. So, anyway, yeah.
You ever have any close encounters or anything on the river? Like with people getting hurt or?
Well, I don't bring an axe. I bring little splitting mauls.
Mm-hmm.
And that eliminates the danger of Paul Bunyan's, into the leg or something, which could happen. And whittling I discourage very quickly. And so those are the ones where you'd get the injuries. I had a guy one time on the St. John, and we're leaving Baker Lake, and we get downriver about 8 miles, and I didn't know it, but he was diabetic. And he said, oh, I left my bag of insulin on a rock up there. And I said, where? All the way back up at Baker. Ooh. So we stopped, and my friend that I had with me, helping me, we paddled and poled all the way back up, and his bag was still sitting there on the rock. But that could have been pretty bad.
Yeah, he got lucky there.
He got lucky, yeah. He got lucky. Yeah. Knock on wood, no big injuries, no heart attacks.
That's good.
Yeah. Lucky.
Very, very lucky. Because you did it. How many years did you say you did guiding trips?
Well, I started in 72 with St. Croix till 78, then 78 onward I was on my own. So
And still to this present day, because you're doing a couple this summer, right?
I'm going to do, I think, 3 this summer, and that's it. That's it. And this is it. Sure.
You've been saying that the last couple of years, though.
My knees have told me that this is it. This is it. Yeah. And my wife says, this is it.
So this is it then.
Yeah. Sylvia comes with me on every trip and is a big help. And anyway, she's tired too. So, yeah.
You guys have a bunch of memories and stuff from over the years from different outings.
I remember one thing that was kind of funny. We're coming into Allagash Lake, and I had this couple, and she was dressed in, like she was playing tennis. And we're pulling into the lake, and we just get into Allagash Lake, and we're going to camp down at Sandy Point. That's my favorite spot. And she says to her husband, I'm paddling kind of right next to him, where's the camp we're staying in? And she says, oh, I see one over there. Is that the one? Well, it was the Rangers camp where John Metcalf was. And I said, no, there's no camps here. She turned and looked at her husband. I thought she was going to kill him. Well, the next morning we get up, and of course it had rained in the night, and it was a little damp on everything. And she comes out in the same tennis outfit, and of course the bench is a little damp. And she sits down on the bench, and we now have the imprint of the bench.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of funny. But, yeah, she survived, but I don't know whether they're still married or not. I have had several times where I've had to separate husbands and wives.
They're the worst ones on the trips.
Ooh, yeah. I had a doctor and his wife one time, and she would scream at him, and I couldn't stand the screaming any longer. And I had to be a little diplomatic, and I said, you're kind of a little bit behind us, and I'd like to pick up the tempo so we can stay together. Why don't you, to the lady, ride with me? And I don't remember who I had my bow, and we'll give him to the doctor. And it was very quiet from that point on. The doctor comes up to me that night, and he says, thank God you did that.
I always say if you want to put your relationship to a test, get in a canoe and paddle down the river.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find if you come off.
I got another one. I had, this Northern Forest canoe route. Well, I camped at Allagash Falls, and this couple comes through, and they're just storming through, portaging through. And they weren't talking to each other, and I asked a couple questions, there were no answers. They just boogied through, put in, and left. Well, later on, I saw Norman L'Italian, who I have moved my vehicles and have for decades, and Norman says, ooh, they started on that Northern Forest canoe trip engaged. When they got about halfway through, they realized they were not compatible anymore. They were done.
Have you ever done that? The Northern Forest Canoe Trail?
No. No, I haven't. It's a long ways.
Long ways, a lot of walking.
Again, it has that word portage involved. I have a hard time saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So, but I've had a lot of great memories. I had Jared Golden last summer with his folks on a trip. He's a real nice guy. Real nice guy. Not everybody agrees with his politics, but I agree with a lot of it, and
Everyone's still a human.
yeah, real nice guy. Yeah.
Now, if you was to pick out, say, 5 campsites from Chamberlain to Allagash Village, what would be your favorite 5 campsites?
Ooh, well, at Allagash Lake, Sandy Point,
Mm-hmm.
I love that because if you get a windy day and you can't get out on the lake to fish, we just go out and stand on the sandbar and sinking fly line out there and pull fish in right off the sandbar. It's a nice spot. So that's one of them. Down on Eagle, uh, I think the old pump handle site, I think that's good. I don't like Farm Island because if you got a wind comes, you're going to be there. Uh, I like Schofield Cove down on Churchill. Oh dear. I like Sam's down on Long Lake.
So that's one of my favorite
Yeah,
campsites
I
is
like
Sam's.
Sam's. Let me see. Down on the river, I like Cunliffe Depot, and of course I like the falls. I just make sure I get there early and get the good campsite.
Have you ever been to that campsite just past the falls? I can't remember.
Yeah, I have. I've been in
It's a
there.
small little
I haven't
cell.
stayed there, but I've
Yeah.
been there.
So I like staying. If I only got 2 or 3 people, I love staying there because it's small.
You gotta go up the hill.
Hill.
That's kind of like a portage now. The hill with my knees. So, yeah, stay away from that. But those are probably the ones I like the most. I do like, believe it or not, at Round Pond, Squirrel Pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Way out back there. You
So I've paddled over there, but I've never actually camped there.
I've stayed there quite a bit. It's a nice spot. It's a little rocky in places, but it's nice.
The 5 Finger campsites. I don't know what it is, but the one just below the rapids there on River
Yeah, on the right.
That's my favorite
Yeah,
campsite.
it is a nice spot. It is. Yeah, it can be buggy at times there.
But the fishing's awesome there, though.
Yeah.
You can put it in there and just paddle up just a little ways there where the brook dumps
Where
in.
5 Finger
Yep,
comes in.
5 Finger. And then even middle of summer when it's hot there, you find that cold water line there, and you drop a fly and.
Yeah, I find that down to Cunliffe Depot, that spring brook that comes in there, in the summer, if the locals haven't been there to fish it out,
Still good.
you can still catch a lot of nice trout right there.
Have you ever paddled across and gone over to where the gravestone is, across on the opposite side of the river from there?
I haven't, no. I mean, of course, we stop there, we always see the remnants of the Lombards there. So
Yeah, there's just down river there and across is a big pine tree, and right at the base of that pine tree there's a nice headstone there, and supposedly it was from back when they had the logging camp.
yeah,
They passed away in the wintertime, and they put them in a potato barrel, and they froze, and that's where they brought them in the spring and buried them, was over there.
yeah, did what they had to do.
There's a lot of that history down along through there.
Yeah, I think back at some of the old ranges, like Brady Scott and Lee Hafford and John Metcalf up to Allagash Lake. And, I don't know that many of the ranges anymore. There's kind of a rotation to them and not so much, but
On a quite fast-paced rotation, too, it seems like.
yeah, it seems like.
I mean, Bob's been there for a while.
Yeah.
Trevor's been there
yeah,
for a while.
yeah, and Matt LaRoche and Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys have been there. I know all of them, but there's a lot of them I don't know them at all. So, yeah.
Any closing remarks or anything you'd like to say that you
Take a quick look at my notes here, see if there's something else. Oh dear. No, I think I did spend a couple of times in hurricanes on the Allagash. I remember Hurricane Bob I spent in Schofield Cove, and we pitched the tents way back in the woods, and I took tops and brought them all the way down and staked every grommet, and we sat in there and played cards until it subsided about midnight, and then we went to bed. And they were shipping everybody. The boarding house down at Churchill Dam, they took everybody off Eagle and Churchill, put them down there. I said, no, we're going to stay here. And we did.
So we got your 5 favorite campsites. What's 5 of your favorite tools, your need-to-be's to bring with you along on a canoe trip?
Well, that splitting maul,
Mm-hmm.
I go for that. The Baker oven, of course, is a definite necessity. Gosh, I don't know. I bring a good toolkit. I bring a good first aid kit. Oh, you caught me off guard with that one. Anyway,
What are the first 5 things you grab when you prepare to go for a trip?
well, I gotta have the life jackets. I even bring 1 or 2 extras. I make sure I got extra paddles.
Do you bring a repair kit with you for the canoes?
Oh yeah, yeah, I do.
Just a roll of duct tape or an actual repair kit?
No, I bring stuff that you could actually patch one if you had to. But with the Tupperware Navy, there's very rarely ever going to be a problem.
If you got a problem, then you've really messed up.
Yeah, but duct tape is real good. In fact, I remember I was at Long Lake Dam with a group one time, and these guys came down through with an aluminum canoe. And they tried to run it on the right side, and they wrapped it. So there's a hole on each side of the aluminum canoe, and it's like this. And they bring it up on shore, and we use my splitting maul, pound it back into shape, duct tape it inside and out. Those guys finished the trip.
And so I've seen canoes come off duct taped inside and out, and it's a wonder.
Yeah. So, yeah, good item to bring, definitely, duct tape. Yeah.
Well,
I bring a real good top, too, big tops, too. I can make it kind of a safe hotel in bad rain under there. So, yeah.
well, there. Well, anything else you want to say before we wrap her up here?
I think I've said enough.
Think you said enough? All right. Well, thanks for coming up, Blaine. I appreciate it.
It was a good ride up, and great seeing you guys.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide with Blaine Miller this time, discussing stories on the Allagash. If you like it, make sure you hit subscribe and follow us along for the adventures we got yet to come.